thank you for making the time. My name's Naomi, and I'm really pleased to share a topic with you today that I am excited about and passionate about. But first, shout out to our sponsors. These companies are making today happen. They've subsidised our tickets probably, they've probably subsidised our lunch. They help create the facilities, the opportunity to use the facilities that we've got. So find a way to support them, visit their stand, look them up online, recommend them to your friends. But they are the reason we're able to do what we're doing. So, today, communicating for outcomes. I just want to maybe take a moment for you to stop for a second in the middle of everything else that's been happening today and briefly imagine your inbox. Maybe you checked it 5 minutes ago, maybe you checked it yesterday, and when you might be checking it next, that might be in 5 minutes' time if we're not going well, or it might be tomorrow morning. Just imagine it for a second. What was in there last you looked? What's probably in there now? And I want you to think about what feeling that invokes. What's the primary feeling that you get when you think about your inbox and all that it represents? Very quick show of hands. Whose was mainly positive? Wow, some productivity hackers here. Just find them in the breaks. They know what they're doing with email. Primarily negative. Yeah, and maybe some in between. So the reason I ask is that our audiences, the people we are emailing to, asking for the things that we need, have a mixed response as well, and a lot of it is negative. Email is overwhelming for a lot of people. It's a field of broken dreams. It's littered with other people's to-do lists, as someone else put it once, and we've got to make sure our emails that we send are cutting through and getting the outcomes that we need, not just when we need, not just what we need, but when we need it, and in the time frame that we need it. And although in Agile we value face-to-face, our ceremonies are beautifully worked around that, you know, the stand-ups and the retros and all that sort of stuff. But often, it's got to go in writing somewhere. And often, that writing's in an email. How often do we wrap up a stand-up or wrap up an outcome, get it in an email, CC people who weren't there, and everyone quickly sign off on it, it pops into a JIRA, there's your requirement. There are no 50,000 page requirements anymore. That's it. Email is it. And we rely on it very, very heavily as we oil in our Agile machine to keep decisions happening, to keep progress happening. So powerfully communicating through our emails is a really, really handy skill to have. And I think it's got increasing value rather than decreasing value. So, outline, we are going to whip through this, and I should just say this is not comprehensive, but it's a toolkit. We're going to try a couple of things along the way and see how we go. But what I'd love to cover today, if we're really quick and smart, is drafting, some editing, and editing's the tricky bit, I think, but you guys might find it easier than me. Using the fields and your email sort of mechanisms around the actual body of the email you're doing. Peacekeeping work, when the emotions are running high and you've just got to tone everything down and get the job done. There are things we can do that will really help accelerate the outcomes that we're looking for. And if we're really quick, we'll do a quick netiquette refresher. Most of it you'll already know, I hope, but there might be a couple of ideas you can play with or perhaps think about. I do want to say two things about the content we're going to cover today. One is, there are no international rules here. These are things that I have gleaned from my experience. They're things that I've found that have worked, and you can take or leave whatever you like. Writing's really personal, and please pick up or drop anything that you see here that's of use or not of use. So please feel free to do that. I guess the other thing I would say is it's really more useful as a process. It's more likely to be useful for the high-stakes emails. So I'm not talking about the emails in your day-to-day, the people that you talk to 90% of the time that you've got a great rapport with, that everyone knows what everyone's talking about sort of emails. Those really transactional ones. I'm talking about the ones where the stakes for some reason are a bit higher. So the information's complex. We need a decision. We've got a big audience. We've got a senior audience. Or we've got some emotion involved that we just need to dial down. And sometimes a meeting is better, but sometimes a meeting's not possible. So just think about it applying. So we don't want to over-egg the quickness of transactional emails that we have day-to-day that work really well. But the ones that count, the ones that need to get us somewhere quickly, they're the ones that we're going to try and sort of just hone a little bit today, lean them down even. So, let me just tell you a story. I started, I'm a BA by trade, and I fell into IT by accident, and I've just loved it ever since. But I had to learn the hard way on a lot of stuff, and the technical world of IT still amazes and bamboozles me. But early on in my career, I was sent as part of our graduate program at the time on a writing course, and I thought, that I can do. I can do that. I was very strong at English through school, very strong. I majored in literature at uni. I can write. So here is an opportunity for me to really, really strut my stuff. So we had to submit samples of our writing on the clear film that goes on the projectors. And I submitted mine. I should have put an apple with it. I was so proud of it. And it had all of the beautiful English devices that I've used all the way through university to great success. And he picked mine first in the training session, and part of it was doing the watch and learn dance. And then by the time he had finished with it, it looked like this, and it was pages and pages of it. It was like it was bloodbath, Hitchcock murder scene. My writing was so complex and so overblown and perfect for an academic literary criticism class, and absolutely hopeless for business writing. So that 2-day workshop, and all the emotions that I felt along the way came out there, but that 2-day workshop was, I think, the beginning of my unlearning and my lifelong learning of how do I get my words right, how do I get them so that people get what I'm saying and they do what I want them to do, and they do it quickly, and they do it in a way that is really helpful for them too. So I'm telling you that as a story because I'm a lifelong learner on this too. Like I said, no international rules here, but I found some things work better than others, and here they are in a nutshell. So drafting it, for me, I believe it's just a 2-step process. You write it first, and you organise it second. Massive shortcuts happening here, but we're all at shortcuts at last. So when I say write first, we're getting the core content out. So when you've got a high-stakes email, sometimes the ideas are swirling, just get them onto the email. And I like to think of it as spaghetti on the wall. Any words, bullet points, partial sentences, bits of ideas, just get them down there. It's fine. You get yourself into that creative flow that way, and you'll get all of the ideas and your shape of the ideas will grow, and you'll start to see it from a big picture point of view. Then you've got your stuff, then we start organising. So organising second, we talk about, I like to think in my emails just in 3 big chunks. First is your key message. Your key message, most people, well, some people will never get past your key message. So it's got to be really good, really good. You've got to be able to see in that very first sentence or 2, what is this about? What are you asking of me? What am I in for if I keep reading? And when are you going to be wanting something? So if you can get that right up front, that's the key. Now that actually might be written last. You might organise all your ideas and think, what am I really saying here? And then you add that in last. But it should appear first. Then you've got all your supporting content. This is where all your swirly ideas will start to come together. I've put them into sentences now, but those will come together, and we'll talk about crafting sentences in a minute. But you definitely put your supporting info second because they may never get to that. And then finally, you must have a call to action. What do you want? Don't leave them wondering. It should be very clear, and it should be sandwiched with your key message. So to me, that's a really quick, easy check. I've seen other devices, but they get a bit complicated. For me, 3 things. So we've got the key message up there, supporting info in the middle, call to action at the end. And is everything consistent? Does my call to action match my key message? That's how I would organise an email, and I found it to be really helpful. And that's good for short ones as well as long ones. Simplification. This is a really hard one, right? Everyone says, oh, just keep it simple, just keep it simple. Well, in IT, often it's not simple. We are dealing with really complex content, and we're dealing with a really big variety of audiences. We've got really non-tech savvy business users. We've got, even within our internal project teams, we've got change and dev and all sorts of stuff. So it's easy to say simplify it. It's another thing to actually do it. But here we go. I think I put this into a pyramid, but it doesn't matter. You can start anywhere. But I think there's 5 key things when I think about editing my emails to really clean them up, make them lean, and make them very, very precise. More space. Shorter sentences. Simpler words. Just enough punctuation. Not too much. Just enough. And no jargon and acronyms. And again, let's talk through how, because these are all easy things to say, but how do we actually get there? So, more space. It's the reason for that, it's, well, as you can see, mind you, my slides may not be doing the job here, but hopefully they are. White space is restful. It's easy on the eye. It's the reason why the minimalist movement ever took hold. It is just easy to skim across, and it makes your important info pop. So as you saw in that last email, a wall of text, it's stressful and you don't see what's important in there. And the way I do that is use the white space around the text, bullet points, tables and diagrams. So we can start to see, if we go back to our sample email, where we had we've organised it, we've got our key message and our supporting info and our call to action. But we could say that exact same thing using a few other mechanisms. Can you see how the white space starts to open up a bit? I've just really grabbed exactly the same info. I cut out the call to action, but you need to know it's there on the next page. I've said exactly the same things, but we've used bullet points, tables and diagrams, and that classic picture says 1,000 words. Sometimes, particularly with some of our IT concepts, if you've got a mini architecture diagram in your email, sometimes that'll tell you a whole lot more than trying to explain it with all the words. So a couple of simple ideas. These slides, by the way, all on SlideShare. So in the Conf engine, so you're welcome to write if that's how you like to learn and you prefer to keep a record that way, but if you'd like to just relax and enjoy, it's all there as a copy for you if you want it to. Shorter sentences. This is always a big one for me. For me, it's about when we find ourselves in the longer sentence, but we really want to say all the things. It's really getting smart about what are the key things in that sentence, the key words and the key ideas. Therefore, what are the excess ones? Get rid of them. Using commas. If we genuinely have to have a long sentence, it must have the commas in it to give the reader a rest. Because even if you're not reading out loud, you still need that brain break of a rest in between ideas. If you can, break it into shorter sentences. That's always the best option, if you can do it. And certainly varying your length. If you do end it with a longer sentence, once you get past 25 words, it's getting pretty hard to read, break it down with a shorter sentence. Short sentences can be really powerful. Are you okay? I am. You know, there's ways to use those short sentences for real power and impact. So, one of these sentences, I can't remember if this is one of the ones on my report, probably was, it looks pretty ugly. For all in-progress requests on the registered apps on the website show request status, information, key milestones, dependencies and delays, and the target date that each request is tracking to. Hideous. It's hideous. And, you know, we all write stuff like that, and in the drafting stage, absolutely write things like that, because that's all the things that we want to say. But start having a look and let your eye bounce on where are the key words and the key ideas. Had a guess, I thought probably these ones, give or take. It does depend on context as to what's important. So to me, there's only about 5 or 6, maybe 7 key things in that sentence, even though it's, I don't know how many words that is, it's over 30, it's ridiculous. So you can start to slash out the stuff that you don't need very, very quickly. Add some commas in, and you end up with something a bit more like this. So it's a slash and burn exercise every time. What's important, therefore what's not, rejig it. Now there's some rejigging of tense and that sort of stuff there too, but that will come with practice. If you are really highlighting your key ideas and cutting out the rest, your sentences will shorten and your ideas will start to bounce off the page. And suddenly the effort of your reader is really reduced, and their ability to have energy at the end of your email to do what you wanted them to do is far greater. So it's just really being kind to your reader. Your turn. Righto. So that's our toolkit. Now you can do this just in your head, or you can do it on a bit of paper, doesn't matter. But this was from my report. This is a ripper. By investigating all the relevant web server error logs in the vast majority of instances of the error, here to relate to the registration or enrolment process, although 10% contains sufficient information to undertake analysis. I mean, I'm bored just reading aloud, never mind listening to it. But these are sometimes the content, some of this is important, right? This is the content that we deal with. We've got sometimes boring content, but the details are important. Any key ideas you can call out there? Call them out. The error logs, yep. Most instances, yep. Registration, enrolment. I mean, at a guess, probably something like that. Yep. Depends on the context, right? You guys know your customers and your project team's needs really well. So I would start doing that, and you end up with, by the time you chop out all the other stuff, something a bit more like that. Shorter sentences. So I'll turn that into 3 sentences. Just picked out the important stuff, cut out all the rest. So can you start to see how just a little bit of pruning just starts to pop the information off the page, and will get your message across much more clearly. Simpler words. So we're almost going next level down, right? So we're tackling space, we're tackling the sentences, now we're tackling some of the words. This one's a classic for me because I love words. They're so fun, but a bit showy-offy to be adding really complicated ones in all the time. You want to put in just enough. And it's tricky because I think in IT we deal with fancy sales packages from software vendors, and they're all about the words. So we're so used to that sales jargon coming at us. But that's not usually the purpose of our emails. The purpose of our emails is to engage an audience and get them to come on our journey with us. So the sales jargon isn't actually our friend, usually on this occasion, even if it makes us feel smarter to write it. So for me, it's about finding and reducing the polysyllabic words. So polysyllabic, anything more than 1 syllable is a polysyllabic word, but particularly, I think, anything more than 3 gets problematic. So problematic is a polysyllabic word. Complicated, hippopotamus. Find the long words with all the syllables. They're the ones you've got to shave right down, because too many of them in a row, certainly too many of them in a sentence or a paragraph, your reader will start to labour. Even if they're not having to say it out loud, they'll be labouring in their reading, and therefore their understanding, and therefore their action. So when you find them, you either convert them to a shorter version, so taking out something that ends in ed or ing or ion or est, that'll often be a polysyllabic word. You've added a syllable just with that suffix. Find the shorter version of that word or find a simple substitute. So, indication would become indicate or show. Join me, won't you? Initiate, start. Good. Necessary would become
necessary
or
needed.
Beautiful. Visualisation could be visual, yep. Show, see, yep. Purchasing.
Buy.
Right. So I'll be really simple shift here, but you say the syllable, and the syllables start to add up, right? So and you'll see that in some of those previous examples that we did. Saving a couple of syllables will immediately start to simplify your sentences. So if you were, say, running a talk on clear communication and you had chosen a title like this, which was one of my early working titles for this, objective-oriented communication, that is 3 words, and I'll give 10 points to somebody to tell me how many syllables. Too many. Correct. Correct answer! I think it's 12 off the top of my head. Too many. So I started shaving down. So I'm applying this all the time. That is too hard. Okay, I've saved a syllable, changing objective to outcome. There's 2 syllables there. Or we could do that. Or we could do that, which is what I ended up with. I mean, you could keep going. I mean, you could end up just calling it right well. That'd be really simple. You can see, and we don't want to carve it so much down that you end up with a full stop and nothing else. But can you see how it starts to get punchier? The more syllables we take out, the shorter words that we use, the punchier it gets. All right, your turn. So, migration and strengthening of the systems means the business has demonstrated the clearest possible intent in integrating. It's not a very long sentence. It makes sense. Can we start to see the polysyllabic words, the long ones? Call them out. Migration. Yep. Beauty, got them. So when your radar's on, they're very easy to spot. This is not hard to do. So we want to get rid of that stuff. So instead of, we could do something like that. Even something like that. Clear is always pretty lean. And then you end up with something like that. It's just that little bit simpler, cleaner, easier. So, just enough. Spelling, grammar, punctuation. I reckon there's 3 types of people in this world. This is my theory. There's people who love grammar, spelling and punctuation. They love it. They will talk about it all the time. If you dangle an Oxford comma in front of them, they'll just get very excited. And they'll tell you all about it. They usually look like this. They're very smart. Very smart. They know all the things. And then there's people who don't know really very much at all about punctuation. They avoided it where they could at school. They avoided at all costs in their emails. And they look like this. And then there's the people in between who don't really know punctuation, don't really like it, but they sort of feel like they should use it, so they just sort of, sprinkle through. There should be some there, I've just put some there. So my theory is all these people are valuable, all these people are needed in this world. Just know which one you are, because that will determine how much help you need to accept sometimes, or how much help you should be providing to your team. So there's no judgment here, because the people who are not strong at this stuff will be very, very strong at other things that we need help with. But to be fair, I think there's very few occasions where it really, really matters. And I'm in the first category. I really love playing around with apostrophes and that sort of stuff. But, rarely does it affect our meaning in business terms, I think. There's only 2 occasions in my humble opinion where I think it really counts. Career documents is one. This is your opportunity to present yourself, and it is the sole thing that someone is determining your value on. And you can say all the things you like about, well, I don't want to work for someone who cares about that shit. But they might not be the person looking at the thing. It might be the HR person that's in your way, who's deciding that if that person can't get that apostrophe right, they might say they're attention to detail, but they're really not. So people make snap judgments when they're trying, and understandably so if they're trying to get through 1,000 resumes. But your LinkedIn, your CV, any sort of cover letters that are going for jobs, if you can't do the grammar, spelling and punctuation in a strong way for yourself, get help. Get help with it. It's really important. And the other one I would say is when you're persuading a senior or an executive audience. There's always someone in the crowd in that C-suite who are just right, again, the smug person. And it will be a distraction for them, particularly if you're doing a pitch, if you're needing funding for something or really trying to persuade. Don't let that be a distraction. Again, get some help on it. It's just a simple thing to take out of the equation so that your message is absolutely unadulterated. But for all the other emails that we deal with day to day, even the high stakes one in a normal email context, I just don't see, I love punctuation, but I don't think it matters. And if you've got someone in your team who's on their high horse about it, it's good to ask them, did you know what I meant? Did you know what I meant? Because often they really will. They really will. So when we say what is the minimum, I think the minimum includes capital letters. I think in emails it's polite to have your capital letters and full stops. Good sentences have those things. We're not in instant messaging territory or text message territory. I think emails still need to have that. And if it's a long sentence and commas. Beyond that, everything's a nice to have. I really believe that. And I'm all for a fantastic use of a colon versus a semicolon. But it's, in the line of work that we're in, it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect the punchiness, the readability, and your voice in the email asking for what you need. Having said that, worth getting right, things like these ones. So if these are not your strong point, there's some ways around that, but just be aware that sometimes that can be a really big distraction for people. They will usually know what you meant, but it shows perhaps just a little bit of clumsiness that you don't need to have on hand. And there's not that many in that category. So the toolkit for these, if this is not your strong point, just know that it's not your strong point. please turn that on. This is quite good. People turn it off. I don't know why. I leave it on, and I usually can anticipate what it's needing. But definitely leave that on and allow your emails to be spell checked before they go out. It's 2 seconds worth. It feels like a long time sometimes, but so worth it. You can Google this stuff. You can Google little memory tricks for these sorts of things. If it's one that really bothers you or a word that's hard to remember to spell, and we've all got those, just Google some memory tricks for it. These are fantastic things to have in your favourites. There's grammar things, and you can just check that stuff. Again, if it's a really important email, you just want to get it right on that occasion, have a couple of those ready to go in your favourites. You can Google anything. If it's a problem you're having, other people will have had it. Or ask a smug person. They'll love you forever. They just, you'll probably get more information than you really wanted, but it's a great opportunity for them to be of service to you, just as you will be of service to them another time on something else. So this is where team building can start, on the little things, right? Okay, so quickly grab your phones if you can. Think about, it might be a word that you find hard to spell, or it might be one of these. So grab a phone out and see if you can figure out if there's a memory trick for one of those. I'm not going to ask everyone to read them out, but just I want you to be confident that this stuff's out there. It's really easy to find. I mean, if I put it's in a search engine and put and, it's already figuring out it's and it's. Like, these are really common questions that there's good tricks on. We keep going. We're ripping through it. I'm happy to take questions through this, by the way, as well. So, but just know that I won't have any hard and fast opinions.
Of
course.
I don't do this. What's your view, though, in terms of if you really want to get a particular, this is not to any executives, but like using asterisks or things in particular words to make a point?
Yeah, okay.
Like
to highlight the importance of something, so asterisks is other sides of the words, is that what you mean?
Perhaps more on the, again, I don't do this, but in terms of toning down the language, if you're annoyed about something or you want to emphasise a point, if it's not, I wouldn't say coarse language, but...
Yeah, I think if we're using asterisks to convey emotion, that we're probably into risky territory.
Correct, yeah.
I think if it's an asterisk to say, asterisk genuinely, for that missing character, that the x value in a algebra equation, asterisks here, there's definitely a place for them. I sometimes use a little roll with them if I'm showing someone I want to proof an email. Can you proof this email for me? Just see below. I do some asterisks there. So there's some clever uses of them you can apply. But I think if we're starting to use it for highlighting importance or emotion, we could potentially offend. And we'll get to that shortly, I think. But yeah, good question. I haven't really thought about that. Acronyms. Now, I'm just going to tell you right now, this slide is a bottomless pit. Every time I run this session, we get stuck on it. So I'm just going to say now, if we're wanting to discuss it, we should do it over coffee in the break, because we'll never get past it. But I'm going to take a stab and say that I think in general, acronyms, they can be a fantastic shorthand. We can't just take them out, right? But they can help us pinpoint where our jargon is, and we need to look at them and go, has my audience got that or not? And they can alienate people in seconds, in absolute seconds, because they're often near the start of an email. People don't know what that is, you've lost them already, because they've either gone off to Google it, or asked 5 other people, or think I'm stupid, I can't ask you, I clearly should know the answer to that already, I don't. So you've lost people already, you've lost the power in your email if they don't know what those acronyms are. I say no acronyms, but clearly there's some, I think, that are pretty well known. I don't think you have to write for your information brackets FYI. I think everybody knows what FYI. My mother knows what FYI is. So TBC, TBA, again depending on which school you went to, but I think most people know. Is to be confirmed or to be advised. The estimated time of arrival, ETA, I think most people know that. And PS at the bottom of an email. Again, there's rules around perhaps when to use that, but COB might be another one, FY for financial year. There's a couple, but really, if in doubt, you study it in full the first time and bracket it after, and then you can use it freely. This next box, this is the bottomless pit. There are the things that are really dicey. I can't fit them on one side. But, you know, we start to get into... MVP, call it out. Please find attached, please find below. I've had to Google some of these because I wasn't even sure when people put these in emails. By the way, thanks in advance. Although, mind you, if you're in the health profession, a tear is a small stroke. So if you put that one in, people might come and check on you and check if you're okay. And it goes on. So this one was a classic. No need to open. In which case my question was, why are you sending it? No response required. For your action rather than for your... I mean, this is, like I said, bottomless pit. There's about 100 more of these. And these have spawned out of instant messaging and texting, right? Where we had short, you know, we're short on characters or we're short on time, but it's not good in an email. So I think, just think about the difference between instant messaging and the people that, again, you have those transactional discussions with, within your immediate team, where everybody in your team knows this one, go for it. But beyond the 3 or 4 people that you're dealing with every day, risky. There's a risk that they don't know what it is and you alienate them and you lose the power of that email. So, if in doubt, leave it out. I mean, thanks in advance. We'll get to that in a minute, but you know, it takes 2 seconds to write properly, if that's really what you want to write. If you really want to thank them, if you're being genuine, then I would just write the words. Alright, so field work. We're doing well. I'm going to get you to the break early at this rate. So these are the fields around your email, right? So I tend to populate them last. Now that's tricky. If you're doing reply all, we'll talk about that in a minute, you might just want to add some extra special characters in there. The reason I populate it last is so that I don't accidentally send it too early. I wait until I've got my email really ready to go, then I put my people in. The reply all, I actually just usually I start a new email sometimes and then paste it into the reply all. Just a handy safeguard trick. 2 versus CC, just to be clear, 2 is if you need an action from them, CC is if you just only want them to have an FYI information. And keep in mind that really smart operators will have rules on their inboxes, so those that they are CC'd on will go straight to another folder. They'll get to it, but not straight away. They'll get to it when they're good and ready. So if you are needing an action from people, they need to be in the 2. Absolutely, every time. And that sometimes with a reply all needs some reshuffling, right? Sometimes the 2 and the CCs aren't right for the thing that you're replying and asking everybody. The title should have something about your call to action in it. Make it short. Again, carve it back. Make it lean. It can be a little bit abbreviated. You should see for revision or for review or questions on or something to give them a hint. Don't make them guess. Let them know what's in the tin before they have to open it and be assaulted with a request. Give them a gentle intro into what it is that you need. But the fewer words, the better. This is a contentious one, but it's just something to consider and decide, is this useful right now or not? We all know the email trails that they are so long and so complicated that everybody's forgotten the question. And we've deviated, and the title no longer reflects what we're now talking about. People have jumped on the train, no one can get off. There is a point sometimes where I think it's appropriate, and I realise, you know, our email clients do store things in conversations, so sometimes it's important to keep a chain of conversations together, but have a think about what is the outcome that I want, and it may be that you need to break that chain. You need to start again, maybe select 5 of the people, of the 15 that have ended up on the chain, with a new title to say. And if you're really concerned about the history, I sometimes take that history, that entire email, and put it in as an attachment to say, there's some history on this, lots of conversations, they're in the attached. What we need to know now is this. And you can start fresh, and you're not dragging this long chain with all the people that now, you know, yes, they were important at one point in that conversation, and now it's whittled down to the last 3 people that need to make a decision. So have a think about, is it helpful? Is it helpful for everybody? Does it get the outcome that we need to actually break that chain this time? Just something to play with. And really be careful with these ones. So reply all, really think about, again, your 2s and your CCs, but does everybody need to know? Often they don't. BCC, I couldn't even tell you if the last time I used it. If you can't say it to someone's face, you probably shouldn't be putting it in an email. And emails can be forwarded, so nothing's sacred. It doesn't matter how strong that trust relationship is that you have with that person, just be aware that if that got forwarded, would everything still be okay? If you can explain that later, it's a very important reason, that's fine, but just be very, very careful that emails are they're not secure. And what I like to call flags, tags and nags, and that is the important status on absolutely everything. Things like adding in reminders that will pop up at people. I've had that one happen to me. I thought I was actioning something in a timely manner and I started getting reminders on it. I thought I was missing meetings, but no, I just hadn't answered the email when she thought I should have answered it, even though the call to action didn't actually say the time frame when I went back and had a look. And then the nagging, the read receipts. Careful with them. I had someone who sent me a read receipt on every single email you sent, every single one. So what do you think I started doing? Not opening them. Or I'd stockpile them. I'd wait till I had a clear half an hour and go, okay, now I'm just going to action them as quickly as I can because I know he's watching me. Dreadful. So usually these sort of things, they get the opposite reaction to what you're after. If you are nagging people, they will push back in some way. Sure.
You can turn it off.
You can. You can. So it was just, I guess it was an observation of, I guess it shows, I think, a lack of trust on our part as writers. If we are writing beautifully, powerfully, with great effect, and following up in appropriate ways, then we need to trust that our readers will respond in kind. So I think, these things are often a bit of a lazy. I think that, there's a place for important emails, there's a place for read receipts, but if they're being used all the time, something's wrong with our writing, or something's wrong with our trust of our people around us. Yeah, sure.
In terms of importance and that reminder, especially when you're looking for approval,
yes,
or where you've already put the action, is it a good practice to actually put that in there?
It can be if you have been very, very clear in that call to action that is when it's due. Because if a reminder pops up, that's at a certain time of day, so make sure that was very, very clear in the outset. And you might even want to say that that's about to happen. Asking for approval at this date, a reminder will appear if we haven't heard back or something like that. So it's just good courtesy, because people are managing a lot of stuff. If you've been really clear from the outset, the hope is that they would diarise that and make that happen in time. But yeah, use sparingly. So don't not use, but use sparingly. Yep. Peacekeeping. All right. So these are the emails where the emotion got a bit out of hand. Either someone's coming right at you or someone's gotten to you and the emotions have gone right up. So I'm just going to go through a serving suggestion for how I tend to organise emails when that happens, how to dial down some of those emotive phrases, and then a look before you leap. All right, we'll keep going. So we've all heard of the ship sandwich. So you start with something nice, put the stuff in the middle, and put the nice thing at the end and hope that they don't notice the stuff in the middle. I think this is probably a slightly more elegant version of that, is the great hope. But I always open with thanks. I find something to thank them for. Doesn't matter what. Thanks for your prompt reply. Thanks for your detail. Thanks for getting back. Thanks for noticing all that, even though I didn't want to know about it. To find something to say thanks for. It's appreciated, and it shows some graciousness on your part. It is easy to do. It's usually 4 words. It's such a simple thing. And then I start pulling out the pronouns. So again, I've done my drafting. I've got my sentences looking right, and then I go in a high emotion situation. I go looking for pronouns. If I've got I's and you's and me's, we and us and them, or any of those, then I start stripping them out of my sentences, so that we are talking about the thing and not the person. We're playing the ball and not the man/woman. Moving out of active to passive voice. We're finding common ground wherever we can. Just insert it in, even if it feels like the last thing you want to do, or if they don't deserve it, you get to be the new person here. I agree on. Find something to agree on. It's a bit like the thanks. You're finding ways to meet them halfway, because good negotiation is about finding this meeting point with people, right? So niceness is not, it's not a weakness, it's a strategy. You're trying to get an outcome, which means getting them on side, even if they don't deserve it. Your manners check, even if they're not using their manners, you can. This is our power as the writer. Don't ever forget your pleases and thank yous. They get you everywhere. I also do a doormat check, and that can happen to me if I'm dealing with a really powerful personality, and we come across them from time to time. They might be very senior, they just could be really volatile, and sometimes I find that a bit frightening. It's intimidating. And I need to make sure that in those cases I'm also not doing the opposite. It's not that I'm stepping in toe to toe, but I'm also not doing the cowering doormat. I'm just wondering, could I possibly, this sort of stuff. Because that's not a good negotiation either. And that won't get me the outcome that I want. Because what I'm asking for is reasonable. I'm using my manners. I'm being clear. I'm showing them every respect. So I can write my email expecting them to give me that same respect back. And I think someone said that statistically women tend to use the word just a lot more than men do. It's just a slight energy shift in the way their emails are crafted, particularly if the stakes are high. Take your justs out. Don't be a doormat. Ask for what you want in a really powerful but I guess, respectful way. And finish with some thanks. There's never enough of them. Thank you for actioning this. Thanks for your time on this. So, really simple example. It's a bit dramatic, but you get the point, right? We see these ones; they're just really blunt. Someone's obviously just had enough. This is what I really think. The question is, when we send those ones, if we're accidentally sending things like this, is it, again, we come back to, is it going to get the outcome that I want? So another way to get them on side would be something like this. So here I've applied that same theory. I've done a thanks. I've taken all the pronouns out. Can you see the I's and the U's have all gone? And it sometimes means not a completely correct sentence. Agree with the scope of the report rather than I agree. Just agree with the scope of the report. It lightens the tone immediately. I found a common ground. I've found something to agree with him on. Done my manners. I've got some please and thank yous. I don't believe there were any pleases and thank yous in that last one. No doormats, and a thanks at the end. Really simple. It's even shorter. So it's short but not curt. It's short but it's respectful, and it's still really clear what we're asking. Emotive phrases, I think, they do creep in, and it's really easy. Some of these are hilarious, by the way, and these are ones that either I've seen or colleagues of mine have seen them in emails, and I've written them down because they were so funny after the fact. They weren't funny at the time. So, as stipulated, it's very snippy. It's coming down from a high horse point of view. You may well be correct, but you won't get people on side with as stipulated. And all of these are in this same category, right? You might be correct. As I already stated, that's just telling someone that they're really stupid, really. Now, look. Now look. And look now. all very emotive. You're going to get someone's, this isn't the stuff that gets the hair up on the back of someone's neck, right? Obviously, it might not be obvious to them. And if it wasn't, they're going to be on the defence. So really be aware of that one. I shouldn't have to point out that was someone's email. It's not going to get you anywhere in future. There's a whole heap of these, you can just keep going. As you can appreciate, that's quite presumptuous. They might not appreciate it at all. Just have to think about, what's their perspective here. Let me tell you. All right. And then I would just say, use with caution. Again, this is not a never thing, but thanks in advance can be a little bit problematic. It's a little bit presumptuous. You are assuming they're going to do it. If this is someone you have a fantastic relationship with, they've done this for you a million times before, you know it's going to be fine, thanks in advance is fine. If it is, I'm asking you to do some enormous thing, you're going to have to review a great big thing, and this is going to be quite a few hours of your time, thanks in advance, not okay. It's actually almost a bit rude. So just balance that one a little bit. Know your context, know your audience. Thank them when they've done it. Thank them for the find something else to do for the ball running, just a general thanks in advance. And then as per, again, if you've got a great relationship with this person, if it's just as per our phone combo that we've just had, absolutely. But as per what I already stated, or as per the email below, the scope that we've already agreed on, as per can just be that little bit snippy. So just be aware. They're ones just to be careful with. And there's all sorts, and again, you can Google a lot of these, but any sort of number of types of, these are words that are meet you halfway words. This is about negotiating via email for a space that everyone can play in, where everyone is respected, appreciate, agreed, can relate to, concur, I'd venture that, suggest, recommend. These are all things that show that you are collaborating with that person. It's not a power battle. It's about getting the job done, getting them on side. So I'd say in general that look before you leap sort of motto, if you've got a high stakes email and you've done the crafting, you've done the drafting, you've done the editing, you've taken out all your good stuff, but you know that this is an important one. And when you send it, you know there's going to be consequences one way or the other. Wait and take a walk. Just quickly grab a coffee, come back and read it one more time. Because that extra 5 minutes could be the difference between you sending a whoops to sending something just really bang on. Reread it aloud, even just under your breath. It's a very, very powerful way to self-edit. Some people would print it out. You'll get another read on it by printing it out. It depends how you feel about printing. We try and avoid where we can. Rereading it's another option. Get a second opinion if you need to. Trusted colleague will always give you an honest opinion on that stuff. The question to always ask, will it get the outcome that you want? Or have you just entered into a game of one-upmanship that's about point scoring, and you might well be well placed to win. Is it going to get you what you need? Are you happy for this to go on the record? This is permanent. This could get forwarded anywhere. To your manager, to your manager's manager, to potential employers. I always sort of think if my boss saw it, if my grandma saw it, if my future boss saw it, would it still look all right? That's often my sort of sanity check on it, if my children saw it. All right, we've done well. We've got 10 minutes, so we're on a one-page etiquette refresher, and then we can have a quick discussion on anything if we haven't covered anything already. So the do's, these are the big ones, I think. There's more, but I've tried to summarise them into one page because we want to get out here quick. Hi, always good to put that before the person's name rather than just their name. It's just a lovely, gentler, slightly gentler introduction. A simple sign-off. That can be a really personal decision, and I have no rules on that. I have seen one that said "joyfully serving Jesus," which was lovely. Probably a little bit too much information, but somewhere along the lines of regards, thanks and regards, thanks, cheers, those sorts of things. A signature with your contact info is a really valuable one. If you have written an email that was so powerful that someone just immediately wants to pick up the phone and talk to you about it, and your contact number's not right there at the end, you've missed an opportunity. So I know we have instant messaging and all that sort of stuff, but emails amongst our colleagues often require a phone conversation. Certainly external emails do. Make sure your phone details and even your email details are in that signature every time. It's really powerful. And just consider your preferred pronouns. We've got he's and she's, but we need Z needed for people who are gender fluid. Just find out what people's preferred pronouns are. It's a really simple way to show some respect. And if you're not sure, just ask them. They'll really appreciate it. And the don'ts are capitals. I think most people know that one, but it's still important. Red text is always problematic. And red text, even though we don't often see it like we saw in that email where you actually see walls of it, I find even when, those ones where you respond in line with a colour, so we're responding to perhaps a set of bullet points, I tend to avoid red even for those. There's lots of other colours. Blue or purple or brown will still look quite good in those sort of scenarios. Novelty fonts usually not helpful, and the gendered language, the ladies or gentlemen, it's just becoming a bit dated. And I have to catch myself. It's with the people that we are closest to at work that I find I'm more likely to make slips like that. we had a test environment that just wouldn't come up for absolute, it was days and days and days. And finally it came up, and the two project managers I was reporting to at the time, I wrote, I nearly sent an email that said, "Gentlemen, start your engines." I was so excited, and I suddenly thought, I wouldn't write "ladies, start your engines," so I took out the gentlemen. Things like that. They're just throwaway comments, but they help, and they're all part of creating good gender balance and good gender diversity in our workplaces. So to me, I think if I was to put on one slide what I thought we've just covered, we've got our right first, organised second, and we want those 3 key messages in our emails. You've got probably 5 really key devices for editing. From your space, through to your sentences, through to your words, through to your punctuation and your acronyms. Good use of your fields and those email devices around how your emails work in terms of flags and those sorts of things. And that peacekeeping piece around, making sure that you've dialed down that emotion so that your message cuts through. But the question to continually ask is, does it head towards getting the outcome that I want? If I'm not asking for what I want very, very clearly, I'm not going to get that response in the time that I need. I think, my experience is that simple emails are the ones that get better outcomes. And the draft, edit and practice piece stuff is the stuff that I think I've found successful over the years. I hope that's a few tools that you guys can take away and use and make your emails really powerful. Were there any questions at this point?
Yeah, just one question.
Of course.
What are your thoughts on just, I think we all have HTML emails these days, so we can render colours, etc. So what are your thoughts on just simple formatting like bold or italic?
Yeah, I think they can be used for a great effect. And it's probably just not too much of them all in the one email. So I do use both those. I tend to use bold more than italic, but the subheaders and those sorts of things, bullet points. If it's all bold, it starts to get a bit shouty. But and you'll see it. So you'll see it when you step back and look at have I used my space, and when you look at that layout, if it's too much bold, you'll know. So it is that step back look at it. Grab those slides from SlideShare. Please use them. If they're any useful, let me know. Hook up with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to hear about how you went with it. But thank you so much for your time. I'll put that other slide back up. So.